I wanted to mention, there it is. It just said the meeting's being recorded. The other thing I wanted to mention was I spoke with Cable 8,
Yeah,
and since our meetings are held on a regular basis, they'd be very interested in recording our meetings as well.
I don't have an issue with that. Does anybody else? Does that mean we have to dress better?
No, I don't think so.
So Jane, does from a matter of process, would Cable 8 handle all the recordation, or would it be a combination of the Zoom record and their record for a logistical standpoint?
I don't know. I have no idea. I spoke with the woman at the CPC meeting, and she had said she was talking about attorney general bylaws and things like that,
Sure.
which was way over my head as far as what she has to submit. I guess she has 48 hours from the time she records something, but I don't really know if it's a matter of either or. But she did say that there's a capability by the host to record the meetings as well. So for now, I think that would be the best process.
I think it would be great to record the meetings and have minutes posted to the webpage. I noticed, I don't think there's like a video recording available for any committee except the select board. So were you thinking that these recordings would be made public on the website?
Yes. Yep.
Are any other committees talking about doing that?
I don't know. I know Concom, I think there's a through Cable 8 that you can see them. I'm not sure. Daryl might know better about that.
Yeah,
I
I
know
don't
that
know. I've never heard the meeting being recorded.
yeah.
We do minutes.
Yeah, the Concom minutes, the Concom meetings are available on the Cable 8 website. I know that, as are the Board of Selectmen meetings. I'm not sure what other committees actually are still doing Zoom. Most committees I know are meet in person, so they take live minutes.
Okay. Well, the select board isn't meeting in person.
Yeah, they're the only other ones, to my knowledge. I mean, I don't know of all the other committees, but the other committees I'm on meet in person.
Right. I'm gonna look at the template because I know when I did them, it had that checked as a default. So I'm a little surprised that it's not shown there. I remember seeing that when I set it up, because when you
Yeah.
set the template up, it gives you a whole bunch of variables and some of them were already checked off. And that was, I remember one of the ones. I'll have to look and see. Because the only thing I changed from prior years is I used to have to let people in. And I thought that was kind of a pain. So I just make it open. If you have the password, you can just log in. And I turn this thing on at like 7:15. So if somebody wants to log in early and just, have it sitting there. So that's the only change I've made. But I'll look at it. I don't trust myself to look at it here. It'll probably blow the meeting up. So, all right. So, so the first item is the open space plan section 9 subcommittee. Daryl, Jane, and Lauren. Thank you guys for getting that done. That's a great accomplishment. We got another 5 years. So, and before we have to do that again. And I can't believe the state turned it around in it was like 2 hours. It was an hour and a half or something. She got it at like noon, and the letter came out, I think it was before 2 o'clock.
Oh,
that was, wow. So, but great job, you guys. And Jane, thanks for helping coordinate with the recreation people to make sure, because that was half the stuff.
You're welcome.
So that's a big action item that's been hanging over us for a few months here. So the next one, does anybody have any other comments or questions about the open space plan?
The only thing I would like to just say is, going through that, though, I could see that that it's easy to ignore some of the goals and targets, and so I'm making up a table maybe that I'll pass around eventually, perhaps before the next meeting, just highlighting some of the things, at least from the standpoint of open space, the tables 1 through 4, OS 1 through 4.
Okay, and maybe we should maybe take a few minutes at each meeting and go through them, and and just talk about what the first or next steps would be in each of those.
Okay.
Because like you say, it's easy to, it's in a book sitting there somewhere and it's buried.
Yeah, accountability isn't high on the list for some of that.
Yeah, I know. That's I know. I can remember project management tools that were automated, and you'd get these email messages saying you have a task that is due tomorrow in 16 hours or something like that. It was, horrible.
Now, Daryl, since we have time before the next update is required, I can't remember last time, did we apply for a grant or receive funding in some way to help round out the plan? I'm just thinking that we have, and obviously we don't need it tomorrow, but I'm just thinking, are there any grants we should keep on the horizon that we might want to apply for over the next 2-3 years?
That I'm not sure of. In the past, we worked on it from 2010 to like 2018, and the commission, the Open Space Committee did, and Doug Randall spearheaded a lot of that, and we had it almost there. We took it in, and we had a raft of 20 questions or comments from DCR at that time, and that's when we're like kind of not threw up our hands, but said, "Geez, we need to get somebody who's done this part of it before," because there were some new parts, and that's when we hired Gino Carlucci because we'd done most of the work. He was able to give us a bargain basement price of 16,000. We got 8,000 from the CPC and 8,000 from the sweat fund. So, but I think for the open space plan 2030, we'll probably have to start looking at that in 3 years, 2028, and maybe start lining up just to get all the goals, have our public meetings, get the public input, and make sure we tidy up everything that needs to be done. And so a couple years ought to do that, and maybe we should look at some sort of grant or something like that. Right now, I'm not aware of anything other than what we used last time.
But I think Dave was alluding to what grants we should be looking at to apply for the state. Was that what you're talking about, Dave, or you were just talking
Yeah,
about
it
funding?
was
the
somewhat
whole
of an
thing?
open-ended
Well,
question. I have no idea. I'm not aware of any that exist. I just couldn't remember if we tapped into any the first time. But I'm sure we could probably do a little bit of poking around on websites. I'm sure Rachel, as a town planner, might have some leads as well. But I was just thinking, if there are grants and we have time, then that's kind of to our advantage over the next couple of years, knowing that inevitably there'll be probably some modernizations that we'll want to do. There'll be probably new sections that we'll have to tackle, and might be beyond the capacity of this group and others. So,
I mean, the only two I know of that directly would impact us here is Parkland Grant. And then I can't remember the name of the other one. It's in that presentation we did for the land acquisition fund. And it's towards purchasing land or turning, and there's another one, maybe Jane knows about this one. There is one about using it for active and or passive recreation, converting town land or newly acquired land. I'll look them up and I'll send them to everybody.
Yeah, the park grant and the land grant are both under the same umbrella, but they're two separate grants, I believe.
Yeah.
Those are the primary ones that I'm aware of, but I'm sure there's like a lot of grants out there. So many of them are geared towards urban areas that we're kind of like not even eligible to apply for them. But there's a ton of grants out there. And especially now that realistically, we won't have the MBTA situation hanging over us because, we lost the lawsuits. So, that will probably go through. I think we would be eligible for anything that where we meet the requirements. Everyone was afraid that that would impede us from being eligible to apply for certain grants, but now we can. So I think anything that's out there, there's lots of websites that we can look at that may help us going forward.
But what does that mean does that mean we have to convert that piece of land into that type of zoning, or is it because we lost the lawsuit? I wasn't aware of that.
Oh, we changed one of the grants, one of the zones is still the same as the planning board suggested. The second one was originally on East Street, and through a lot of community involvement, the planning board changed that. And now we're using the Ledgeview already built apartment buildings as the second location to get us up to the 50 acres of eligibility. So I don't know when the final vote has to happen, but I believe at this point, the Board of Selectmen has exhausted all the resources they had to fight it. And although there is one more thing that I heard about, but I'm not completely up to date on it. There is one more thing where I believe there's some representation at the State House that's trying to rule the whole thing. I don't know if it's unconstitutional or I don't know enough about it, but it's possible that the whole MBTA thing could get thrown out at some point, but we are in compliance at this point. We have our two zones. So I don't think that will have any bearing on any grants that we apply for going forward.
Okay. Right. And where are those apartments? Are those the ones on 1A near the mall?
No, right across from Target. Is that not Target?
Oh.
Right at the end of what's the name of
Madison
that?
Street.
Yeah, Madison.
Yeah.
On
Right
Route
at
1.
right at the corner of Madison and Route 1.
Yeah.
But it's existing apartments that are sitting there?
Yeah, they were built, I don't know how many years ago, but yeah, originally the planning board wasn't sure if they could include them because there's a lot of Section 8 housing within that apartment building, but they found out that they can. So it's one less thing we have to worry about because it's already there.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Good. Okay, and the next item I had was the land scoring committee. So since Dave's the only person here who knows it, what's his name? Greg tell us that he could load our finished scores there, or is that something we can do on the website? Because I know the way I understood it was they weren't comfortable letting us use the town website as our workspace, but we could put our results there. Is that correct?
That vaguely sounds familiar. I mean, I don't want to speak for Sean, who's been kind of spearheading the subcommittee, but I know trying to figure out the best IT solution to post scores, to have a workspace, we're all still, I think, undetermined. But the three of us have been kind of working through the properties, providing the evaluations. I think between the Excel spreadsheet that we have, it really standardizes the approach and scoring. I think it does a really nice job of tracking. So at some point, I think we'll probably, when we're all back together again, we can kind of talk about what we've done to date, how many properties that we've done. We've done quite a few at this point. That so where we want to go with that, but also just some general observations on scoring. One question that I saw is, there's the question about the regularity of the lot, right? So there's the acreage of a lot, and that's pretty black and white. Is it 10 acres? Is it 20 acres? It's pretty defined. But then there's the regularity, like the length and the width. And, to some degree, that measurement has a little bit of subjectivity to it in terms of where does one measure from point A to point B to get the distance. And so we might want to talk about, making sure that we're doing it accurately and repeatedly. But at the end of the day, things like acreage and the other spatial layers, like, is it in a wellhead area? Is it in biomap? Is there other vernal pools on the property? That's pretty standard. Like, no matter what, that's essentially automated, and we're just kind of filling in the yes, no answers. But yeah, moving right along. I know that Sean's been traveling a bit, but I think we'll make it a point to check in prior to the next meeting to have a more formal presentation and where we're at.
Yeah, because I think once we start loading scores on there, we'll stop hearing from people saying, what are the scores?
Yeah.
Good.
I do think,
yeah,
I do think when we do decide to post scores, we're going to want to create the context of a score, because, you think, oh, a score of 100 is a perfect score, which obviously it would be naturally, but, there's nuance, right? And
Yeah.
the nuance, I would hate to have a situation where, an opportunity is before us and it's not a perfect score, yet there's a way to make it happen. I think it really gives us a pulse on what the potential significance of that property is, and then as a group, as a committee, probably worth saying, okay, we have these scores. If an opportunity comes up, we as a committee reevaluate it together to make sure we're all comfortable with it, so we can communicate out the positives, the opportunities, the concerns, whatever it might be, in one voice. So,
I mean, yeah, one of the things I always thought was the hidden value, if you want to call it, or the real value to us, was once we scored all these properties, the ones that really aren't suitable, we'd just push them aside, and then it would, cause a lot less work for us
yeah,
and everybody involved. Because we know how much work was involved in getting that, that purchase done.
absolutely.
Cool. Great. Anything else on that one?
Nothing on my end.
All right, I'm gonna, wait 1 second here. Can I find this? Oh, here it is. Okay, so I'm gonna forward this to everyone. I thought Michael had copied everyone on it, but he didn't. So 2095 West Street, the owners, the sellers, have asked for at least 30 more days. So they want to postpone the October 16th closing date into November. It says by at least 30 days. And it says, I mean, you guys will get this, but it says the sellers need additional time to resolve a title issue after recently disclosing a family member with a previously unknown potential interest in the property. Further research is required to ensure insurable title. So that sounds pretty serious.
Yeah.
So I'm gathering there was a family member who was probably a part owner and they forgot about them.
I was curious, besides, the Wrentham Legal Counsel, do the other parties now that have a financial interest in it, Pawtucket Watershed and the DCR, do they have a legal team that helps us out in
Oh.
resolving all this?
So I would assume they do. Actually, I'll give you some more of his update here. So he gives an update on DCR. Says DCR is prepared to provide the funding this fiscal year, contingent on recording a conservation restriction. And then there was a waiver to bypass the standard 120-day notice period is also on Tuesday's agenda. That's at the selectmen's meeting. They have to approve that. DCR has been cooperative and the funds are already earmarked in their FY26 budget. So we're going to get the money. It's just we have to close, and then they are named as co-holder of the conservation restriction, which when I read the next section, you'll understand. So Pawtucket Water Supply is meeting in executive session on October 14th to consider waiving their right of first refusal requirement and instead becoming a co-holder of this conservation restriction with the Department of Conservation and Recreation. This would streamline their $650K contribution, has expressed initial support of this proposal and is in contact with our town council. So they're basically negotiating to not require that right of first refusal, because if they hold the CR, that's as powerful or more. So, and so on this extension, I didn't send it. Did Mike tell you anything more, Darryl? About
No, just what was in that email.
just, yeah. Because I mean, that's, yeah. I mean, that's what, to me, that's what it sounds like, that there was somebody who was listed as a part owner of this, and so, because there's no, I mean, they can't change the price or anything. So,
It seems like at least DCR and Pawtucket have been working in good faith with the town, which is
yeah,
great. And the right of first refusal piece, I think it's probably a flip of a coin in terms of its value, especially with the conservation restriction. And I think given how CRs are established in Massachusetts, it's a pretty powerful tool to ensure land is open space. So I think that's a really good next step there. And it sounds like it's just a matter of time rather than it becoming a bigger issue, especially if the money is there. So hopefully it just means that when they're ready, we'll be ready and we can move quickly and hopefully have not a lot of downtime between purchase and reimbursement for those various sources that we're going to do a reimbursement based model to us.
Yeah, I know, that's so, but that's good news that they're backing off of that, because I guess there was this whole right of first refusal. That's another whole set of legal guidelines that has to be put in there. So that was pretty complicated. I'm not a lawyer, I don't know, but
I know it was something that was brought up at town meeting that caused a few people to pause on the situation, but I really don't have any legal expertise either, but I know a few people had mentioned it at town meeting. So that's good that they're able to move past that and work in conjunction with Wrentham's legal team to streamline the process.
Yeah, and it affects whether they can get title insurance, which is huge.
Mm.
I actually had a property on the Cape that my wife had purchased, and we didn't realize it at the closing, but the owner didn't sign the documents. Her son did, and initialed, put his initials underneath it, but our attorney had put title insurance on it, so our title was protected. So when we went to sell it, that came up, but because we had title insurance, done. So it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So that was, I guess, when you need lawyers, it works. So, I had another item here about discussing possible educational events, which I think we had discussed last time a little bit. And I think we were gonna get some information maybe at this meeting, but I don't have anything in my last last
I
meeting.
think Lauren was taking the ball on
Yeah.
on most of that. She had a lot of great ideas.
Yeah, so we still have $1,500 in that fund, so we can do a lot of things if we want to. And then we're gonna reapply, is it this fall? Whenever the sweat stuff comes out. Or is it in the spring? So, okay. Okay, the only other one I had was anything new on that White Barn Farm or whatever happened. I was away for that meeting.
Well, it passed by a 5-4 vote. I voted no. I said the reasons why I voted no, but I knew that it was going to pass. I knew that the votes were there. It wasn't, as we expressed in our discussions, it wasn't anything about the property in and of itself. It's the way the whole thing went down. So I'm hoping moving forward that, and especially it will help with our meetings being recorded, that there's transparency. If there are projects that are being worked on in the town, if there are land parcels coming up that we're applying for grants, let's all be on the same page and know what's happening so that we can be open with the community, especially when we're asking for money.
So Jane, since I couldn't figure out how to watch the meeting, out of curiosity, beyond the White Barn Farm parcel, what other proposals are advancing to the town meeting in November? I guess what came out of the meeting ultimately.
Yeah, there are only two others. Well, what happened about a week before the meeting? What happened was they did their final accounting. So originally, there was only going to be $200,000 was what was anticipated. Another large chunk of money was made available because of the timing of the 2095 West Street. So basically, all three projects that were on the table were able to go forward. And that was a big reason why all three were able to go forward. So it's the Raymond property, the recreation pavilion, and there's a not housing. Yeah, a housing project where it's like $50,000 coming out of the housing budget. Something that Rachel had proposed. Something about affordable housing and bringing in a consultant to try to make that happen. And that was like $50,000 or $55,000 ask for that. So all three passed.
And that would be non-bonded, so it'd be a simple majority for each one of those, or?
Yep, nothing needs to be bonded.
Okay. Good.
So there'll be three things at this is in November, right?
Yes, yep.
Oh, okay. And how much is each? Do you remember how much? White Barn was 330, right?
I don't have it was either 330 or 310. I don't remember
Okay.
I actually have some of my paperwork with me, but oh, is that
And
it?
the housing was 50,000.
50 or 55,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then the recreation was 208, but they've applied for a grant that would if they're awarded the grant, would pay back 58% of that back to the CPC. But that doesn't get announced till the beginning of the year if they get that grant.
Oh, so they'll get back like 110 or more, 120.
Yes, something like that. I don't have the math in front of me.
Okay. Oh. So where did more money come in than they thought was going to come in, or?
What had happened was the monies that were allotted for the bonding money, because of when the 2095 West Street property closed, and it sounds like it still hasn't closed, that
Yeah.
money that they originally allotted for that, it was like $225,000 that they had originally allotted for that. They didn't have to pay. They're not going to have to pay till next year. The only thing they had to pay this year were some interest fees. I believe $38,000 was all they were required to pay this year for that bond, as opposed to the 225-ish
The principal
money that they were
they,
going to pay.
oh, because they don't need it until after the closing, to the
Yep.
closing.
Yep. So that's originally they had budgeted as if that money was already gone. So that's why the CPC, as well as everyone that was following it, assumed that there was only about $200,000 that was going to be able to be allotted for the generalized fund, which was what Open Space and Recreation were applying for. The housing comes out of a different budget because they haven't asked for any money over the past several years. So they already had like 100 grand that's strictly just for housing. So
Yeah, because
so all three were able to go through.
they have to allocate that every year.
Yep, 10% every year goes into each bucket.
Oh, well, that's great news, actually, for the town. All three projects going through. We're swimming in money.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd say swimming, but
Yeah. Well, we're we got money to spend. That's that's a good thing.
Well, hopefully between the land acquisitions and the improvements at the complex, we can check some goals off of our open space and recreation plan, which would be great. So,
yeah.
Yeah, was that one of the goals in the in section 9, Jane? The
I
pavilion?
know the recreation that's a pavilion has been part of the plan for the last 20 years. So that'll be good that they're able to accomplish some of that.
All right. Well,
out of curiosity, where within the complex? I know where the playground is, and I know where like that concrete building is. Where would the pavilion be located?
It's right behind the recreation building.
Oh,
Like
okay.
if you're in the playground, you look to the right, and there's a 90 by something concrete pad
Yep.
that the recreation had put down last year through an ADA grant to begin the process of the pavilion.
I was
So
just gonna ask
that's
if
what
the,
it will be.
yeah, I was gonna ask if it's where that concrete slab was. My
Yeah,
husband and I were like, I don't know what that concrete slab is for.
that's what it was. Last year we applied for an ADA grant, and we received the entire amount that we applied for, but there were certain things that they weren't able to make happen with certain walkways and stuff. So the people in charge of the ADA recreation got their permission to use it for the slab for the pavilion, and they were given it because that has to be all ADA compliant anyways. So yeah, so it's been sitting there waiting for a year. So this will be great that we can have some covered space up there.
So it's going to be this big slab with a big roof on top of it, basically.
Basically, yep. Yep.
That'll be a nice spot to have.
Yeah. I mean, there's a pavilion down in Rhode Island that they just built. That's amazing. In a perfect world, that's what we'd be able to do in Wrentham. I mean, I forget. It's down by the ice cream place there in Rhode Island. They built this
Oh,
beautiful pavilion.
well, they built a bit. Well, in Cumberland, they built across from Ice Cream Machine. They built.
Yeah.
Well, they built. It's a multi-function building. Basically, it's meant.
Yes.
It's
That's what in a perfect world we could have here, and then we could rent it out for events and make some
Yeah.
money for the town.
Yeah, because I know I played tennis with like half the town of Cumberland, and
Oh, okay.
they were grousing about how much that building costs, and the fact
Yeah.
that they hired like they got 2 or 3 staff that just work in that building.
Oh,
One is
I mean, I haven't seen it in person, but I saw the pictures of it. It's amazing. It's really beautiful. But
I go by there like at least once a week because we do food shopping at Dave's over in Cumberland, so I go right down Diamond Hill Road there.
yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, it is. They did fix up that it was a dump, quite honestly,
Yeah.
that area. But it's a city of almost 40,000 people. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of money.
Oh, yeah. And they can do things like that too. And I heard that the actual hall in and of itself is booked out for the next 2 years for weddings and events. So they'll make some money back anyways, but as far as what we'll have at the Rice Complex, it'll be good that people will have an area for shade and to host a lot of things. I know that a lot of members up at Town Hall were hoping that they could host different types of events under there. So we'll see. Hopefully it'll go off without a hitch.
Okay, well that's good news. So if these all pass, that's a real valuable parcel up by White Barn Farm. It's too bad we didn't know about it sooner. Nobody told anybody, but that's another task. I don't have anything more on the agenda. Does anybody have any new business or old things we want to talk about? Don't all yell at once.
I don't think so. I just think maybe at the next meeting, we can, if Lauren isn't able to be here, which is totally reasonable, just to be
Yeah.
able to have a report out. Because I know some of those, we had a lot of good ideas and a lot of good leads, and I'd like to get those
Yeah.
on the schedule for the year ahead so we can promote it and actively engage with the community in advance. But I mean, Lauren has the connections and obviously is really familiar with the educational programs. So I have full confidence, it just starts to creep up. By next thing you know, it'll be the new year. So
Yeah. I'm looking.
And
I
I think something we can learn too from what happened with the Raymond parcel was there was a lot of communication on social media and newsprint and everything. So maybe we can use those similar tools to promote the open space programs that Lauren can put together and get some really good attendance.
yeah, it's a great point. Really good point.
Yeah. Because actually I posted I think one of our walks last year on Facebook because I'm not a member, but my wife is, and I posted it. I just posted the brochure we had done, and half the people that came to that event had seen the Facebook post.
Oh, yeah, because there's all kinds of different groups on Facebook. There's like mums groups and like
Yeah.
Sheldonville groups and East Wrentham groups and things like that. So there's all different ways to promote it on social media. There's also a Wrentham engagement website. They can put things on it. So there's lots of different avenues with social media, and not necessarily my age group, but all you young people use social media exclusively. So
I
they might,
I hate Facebook.
yeah, yeah,
I'm with
But-
you. That's why I'm not a member.
yeah.
But I have some notes here. And there were some categories put down. There was an adult category which said invasive plants, presentation or a walk, family-based, turtle rescue, bird boxes, and bugs. And then there was another note here, orienteering with the Boy Scouts. So those were some of the things I took notes the last time. So we must have been talking about those things.
Well, just something when you said turtle rescue, I walked my dog in the woods today and he found a little turtle on the path and I thought it was cute. I took a picture of him sniffing it. The next thing you know, it was in his mouth. And it took me 45 minutes to get it out of his mouth. Like so much. I was afraid, first of all, he'd kill the turtle, but also that he'd choke on it because the shell, wouldn't fit down his windpipe. So, yeah, it took 45 minutes. I called my husband in a panic. He met me up in the woods. He came home from work to try to help me get it out of his mouth. But yeah, so that's turtle rescue for us. Got
Okay.
it out.
So we'll have to get that publicized, Jane, that you saved it from your dog.
Turtle.
Another idea we could consider that's related to orienteering is I know there are professional like trackers that teach tracking, animal tracks.
Right.
And that might be a good winter, spring time where there's either mud or snow. And usually those are like pre-canned, presentations. So something we can look into next time might be something for like winter or early spring.
Yeah, something like that might be good to maybe tie in with the scouts and things like that, because I bet they'd want
Yeah.
to be involved.
And I think was it Daryl? Was it you who had the connection with I'm gonna mess it up. The green team or the environmental science group at KP? I feel like there was like a club that had an outdoor or environmental like angle to what they did, and it was a teacher in particular who probably taught environmental science or something at KP. That might be another audience to target, a little bit older group. Oh, you muted. Sorry about that.
A couple of years ago, there was a couple of teachers and students that were involved, but I haven't heard from anybody since. I'm not
Okay.
sure where that's gone.
Okay. Okay. Hearing nothing, I guess I'll send that email to everyone. And if you have any questions, you could just about 2095. You could just send a note, I guess, to Michael, just asking. But it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a little vague on the whole thing about the family member, but that's obviously it's none of our business because they're going to sell it anyway. They have to get their house in order. So, but I'll send that out as soon as I can log out of Zoom here. So, and I'm going to make a motion to close the meeting at 8:18.
Make a motion. I'll second it.
All in favor?
I
Okay. Thank you all for coming. And we'll see you in about a month.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.